My name is Seela Myers, and today I will be speaking on the topic of the privatization of prisons by means of mass incarceration, high staff turnover, and myths. I want to discuss why private prisons are mostly negative. So first off, I have a map of U.S. contract prisons, otherwise known as private prisons. Here we see GEO Group and CoreCivic's locations in the United States. It is important to notice the influx of private prisons in the southern region of the United States for future slides. Oklahoma and Texas in particular are two I'm going to focus on. So now I want to address as a recent issue in the topic of CoreCivic, Hadir Aviram, a professor of law at Hastings University, writes about the issues of mass incarceration aligning with private prisons. Aviram writes about a 2014 proposal from the CCA, CoreCivic, to 48 states. CCA has proposed to buy and manage prisons at a lower rate for the state, provided that 1,000 beds are maintained and that the state fill at least 90% of those beds. This contributes to mass incarceration by providing monetary incentives to overcharge. So here on this slide, I have some visuals. I put a comparison of some graphs. Here on the left, we see the amount of those incarcerated per 100,000. Now it's interesting to compare the left graph to the right graph, which shows that when compared, that the states with the largest incarceration rate also have the largest amount of private prisons. For example, Oklahoma and Texas, as pointed out earlier. With incentives given like the proposal mentioned earlier, it's easy to understand why these states use these services. For this next slide, my point is further proved as with a comparison of one of the same graphs. The percentages of those incarcerated in private prisons compared to the graph of those incarcerated is a shocking realization to the reality of private prisons and mass incarceration. For this slide, I would like to shortly discuss the high turnover rates of staff within private prisons. Those who work in private prisons are paid $7,000 less than state employees, according to the Brookings site. Also, private prisons hire less employees than states. According to Brookings, there are 1 officers per 6.9 inmates at private prisons in comparison to 1 officers per 4.9 inmates at the state level. All of these factors cause high turnover rates. For this slide, I thought it would be important to dispel some of the myths that go along with private prisons. And here we go. So, many advocates for private prisons do acknowledge that these two facts do exist, when in fact private prisons do not incite beneficial competition at the state level. The only competition really is among the private prison industry. Secondly, private prisons do not cost less. A meta-analysis of studies in Louisiana and Tennessee showed that public and private were similarly costing. This is according to the brookings.edu site. So this is the end of my presentation. I will submit my bibliography with my references on a different page. Thank you for watching.